Champaign County Agriculture Today with your host, Dennis Riggs.
Hello and welcome to Champaign County Agriculture Today. My name is Dennis Riggs, your host for the next few minutes as we talk about important issues here in Champaign County and East Central Illinois, particularly about agriculture. You're saying, well, why could that affect me? Why should I be anything at all interested in agriculture production? Well, guess what? We actually produce food. Don't let everybody know that, but we are actually in the food producing business here in East Central Illinois. And to do that, you have to have a few things. You have to have Mother Nature to provide the rain. You've got to have natural resources like the soil, the water, of course. And you have to have farmers and you have to have seed. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. How do farmers take it from the seed production to the actual feed that shows up in our grocery store shelves as feed for our livestock and things that make even ethanol production, fuel, food, and fiber that we use in our everyday lives. And we've got some great guests today, so I hope you'll hang with us here and learn about how we turn from seed to feed. And we have Lee DeSmith from Pioneer and your plant's out by St. Joe. I'm going to have you explain that in just a second. Okay. And I have Eric Rund, a farmer here in Champaign County. And gentlemen, thank you for coming in today and talking about how we get from seed to feed. Lee, let's start with you. Give me a little bit of background about yourself and what your job is here in agriculture.
Okay, I'm the plant manager at the Pioneer plant in St. Joseph, and I've been there for about 11 years now. At our plant, we are a corn production facility, so we contract with local farmers to grow seed. We manage that seed crop throughout the growing season. We'll harvest it in the fall, then we bring it into our plant, process it, dry it, eventually condition it, put it in a package, and then ship it out to our sales force, who then delivers it to our customers. So,
now, Lee, are you a farm boy? Did you grow up on the farm? How did you get your interest in agriculture?
I grew up in a farm in Henry County, Illinois. So yeah, grew up as a farm boy, and so I guess what I'm doing now is about as close to that as I can be without being a farmer.
There you go. You know. Don't stir quite as much dirt.
Right.
Eric Rund is with us today. Eric's a farmer here in Champaign County. Eric, you've been around Champaign County for a long time. Give us a little bit of your backgrounds.
Yeah, born in Champaign County, so yeah, we farm south of Champaign-Urbana, about 20 miles at Pisodum, corn and soybeans, and until a few years ago we also fed livestock, fed hogs, and we do some travel to overseas to look at and take other farmers to look at how they're producing corn and soybeans and wheat and livestock and other, mainly in South America. And do that in the wintertime when we can't grow corn and beans. We actually grow Pioneer seed for the most part. We grow for Frito-Lay. Our corn actually goes for corn chips and tacos and things like that. And we also grow seed corn for the St. Joe plant. Last year we did, not this year. And we grow seed beans. So that's what our main production, our crops are.
So your farm actually does two things. You're growing crops out in the field, and as we drive by, they look the same, or do they look different? The seed, the crops that you're growing that go to seed for farmers to plant next year, or the crops that are going for corn chips that we're going to eat in our next bag of Doritos. Does it look any different?
The seed corn will look different. Just note that right off the bat, that you'll have 4 rows of either taller corn or shorter corn than the one row right beside it, and that is a pattern of male rows and female rows, which I'll let Lee explain more of that, how that works. And the Frito-Lay corn looks just like any other field corn, tall green, deep colored green. This time of year especially, it really looks deep dark green. And soybeans look like any other beans. Those seed beans are not hybrids, so they look like regular soybeans that are commercial beans.
So if people have ever wanted to see a family farmer, they're looking at one when they look at you, right?
Yeah.
Now, how many generations, how long has your family been farming down by Pisodum?
Well, down by Pisodum, I'm the 3rd generation, so my son will be the 4th. Our ancestors came from Germany to this area, the area we're in now. So.
Well, good. Well, good to have a good family farmer with us today.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, let's get started and talk about producing this seed. As many of our viewers today, they may have a garden in their backyard and they grow vegetables, like is on our poster here. But to do that, they need seed as well. I mean, it just doesn't. If you want tomatoes to grow, you just don't, say, boom, I want a tomato. You have to go buy the seed. They're used to buying the little packets. Now, do farmers buy their seed in the little packets too?
We buy seed or sell seed in 80,000 kernel packages, or actually now we're also selling in a bulk box that would hold the equivalent of 80,000 kernel packages. And in 80,000 kernel packages, we sell by kernel count because seed size can vary quite a bit. And so that, it may range from 40 pounds to 60 pounds, that kind of range in weight. But that way a farmer, regardless of the seed size he's buying, it should plant about the same amount of acres.
So the seed has got to be pure. When a farmer buys his seed, just like somebody in town wants to buy their seed of radishes or cucumbers or whatever, you don't want to plant radishes and a horseradish comes up, right?
Right.
So we'll share all that. We're going to try something new in our program today, and that's called video. We haven't done this very often, but our video number 2 here is talking about farmers going out, like Eric, and planting the seed out in the field to grow. If somebody's driving by and they see a planting operation, they may not be able to distinguish it from field corn, commercial, or whatever, or seed corn. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this a try and see if we can get this video going. Here we go. Give us an idea of what's happening here, Eric. I'll rely upon your farmer expertise. What's the gentleman doing there?
It looks like he's doing the hardest job of planting. He has to fill those boxes up with a bag. That takes a lot of work.
But that's the true seed that he's selected,
is.
Bought from a seed dealer,
Yes.
and he's putting that into his own equipment to plant.
Exactly, yeah. I'm not sure exactly the entire video what he was doing, but it just basically shows in the spring of the year, this is what we do. This is one of the first things we try to get done in the spring is get corn planted.
Well, of course, planting season is so important, and we all think about how many times a farmer goes out there and he's struggling with Mother Nature or with mechanical equipment, chains breaking, hydraulic hoses blowing up, that type of thing. Lee, tell us, what do farmers struggle with to get that crop in the ground?
Well, they're always looking for the right conditions, and very rarely we have the exact right conditions. So you're trying to fit it in between all that. But in seed corn, probably the unique thing is we're planting 2 different genetic inbreds out there. And those inbreds, sometimes they're about the same maturity, sometimes they're different. So we may have to plant one before the other, or vice versa, to synchronize the pollination. So when that female plant is throwing silk out, ready to be pollinated, we have male plants shedding pollen. So that may mean we got to go in and plant the female parent today, and a week from now we come back in and plant the male parent, and you never know what the weather will be like a week from today. So that's probably one of the big wild cards with seed corn.
I think a lot of our people are watching today, they don't understand the fact that growing seed is such a specialized thing. It's not like just growing it and it comes up and you take the kernels off of whatever you grow. There's actually a crossing of male, female corn plants and the different traits to produce a desired end result.
Right. Seed corn is a hybrid crop, which means it has to crossbreed, so to speak. So we plant 2 different inbreds out there, pull the tassel off one, forcing the male plant, what we call the pollen from it, to pollinate the others. And then that's our hybrid cross.
Typically, by nature, corn is a self-pollinating crop. Like if you would grow corn in your backyard, it would grow up, and there'd be a tassel at the top, and there'd be the silks coming out, and it would pollinate itself, and you'd end up with corn. But in seed corn, who determines how you change all that? How's that figured out?
Well, research does a lot of research on which inbreds that you cross produce a desirable hybrid, corn at the end. And then once they figure that out, then we mass produce that. And they'll do research on it to know what is the maturity difference, things like that, and how we need to go about planting it to get the desired synchronization there at pollination time, and then kind of know about what it would yield.
Sounds like work. And let's watch that work. We're going to go to another video, our video number 2.
Okay.
And this is a thing called roguing. And I know a lot of people that have not been involved with seed corn production haven't heard about it, and those of us that know about it think that's a terrible job. So we're going to pull up this video number 2 called Roguing, and this is a hands-on labor out in the field. Here we go. We're going to take a look at these gentlemen, and Lee, give us a little bit of idea what's going on in this video. It looks like guys are just out there tending to their garden.
Yeah, basically what they're looking for is plants that look different than the majority of them out there. And usually they're a taller, more robust plant. And so they just have a hoe and they're just gonna hoe them off.
Gosh, they're not in a machine. They're not driving a tractor with air conditioning. Looks like it's pretty hands-on work.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old days.
How long does it take to do, do you have to do this once? Do you have to do it twice? How often do you have to do this during the growing season?
Usually once. If you don't have many late emerging rogues, that may be good enough. You may have to do it again. Twice is usually would be adequate.
And once again, the whole idea here is you're trying to keep the seed that's being produced as pure as possible by not introducing undesirable traits back and forth. So it's basically looking like I've got a black cat and a white cat, and I want to put these things together to make a black and white cat.
Right.
Okay, all right. Well, it's more complicated than just that, I'm sure. Well, our next video we're going to look at, our video number 4, is talking about detasseling. Now, some of our folks in town, maybe their kids, maybe them when they were younger, got a job detasseling. I know, Eric, you actually still run some detasseling crews on your farm?
No, I haven't for a few years.
Haven't done that for a while, but you've done that for a while. I know
yes.
you can tell. So we're going to run video number 4 here, and let's talk about detasseling. What on earth is going on here? Eric, if you want to.
You've got a machine there with 2 kids on it. What they're doing is, as Lee said, you have to make a cross between the 2 plants. So these kids, what they're doing is pulling the tassel out of 4 rows of these 2 there'll be 4 rows of what we call the female inbred. Pull the tassel out of it, allowing the pollen from the male row to come over. Well, these kids got to get, 99.7% 99.7% of all these tassels have to come out in order to maintain a pure seed that qualifies as a pure seed. So the kids will go through after. Normally, they'll run a machine through first that pulls a lot of the tassels. And then the ones the machines can't get, you have to go through with humans. You have to, kids, in my case, and 13 to high school. It's a fun group to work with. And teach them to pull the tassels that remain. And it takes 1 or 2 times to get them all.
Probably one of the first examples of hard work that some young folks have had to do. Usually pays pretty decent because it is hard work. They're out there in the heat and oh, by the way, what if it rains? Do we just stay home that day?
As long as the machine runs, or if the machine gets stuck, you get off and walk then, because Mother Nature won't wait. The pollination is going to happen, so you got to get the tassels out. So we're out there no matter what, unless it's a lightning storm, then we scurry for the buses, but you're out there because you got to get it done. Once again,
showing that agriculture is hard work. It's not just to sit back and push buttons. Seed production is very much part of that. We're going to look at our last video. You know, you go through the whole year, you raise the crop, you get it planted, it grows up, you do all the things we've seen in the videos, and then it's time for harvest. And of course, that's the important part, is to try to bring that crop in from the field. So as we look at our 5th video here, we're going to take a look at harvesting out there on the farm. And Lee, tell us what's going on in this photo. We're seeing the crop.
Okay, at this point the crop's starting to dry down. In seed corn, we typically start harvest way before a farmer typically would. Farmers desire 20% or less before they're going to harvest their corn. We'll start at 38% or less, because through the whole harvest process, we're trying to get our crop in before it freezes, because a freeze can kill the germination on wet corn.
Because some people might not realize that corn, those kernels of corn that we see here in the video, are live mechanisms.
And they have moisture in them. If it freezes, the moisture in that kernel will freeze, expand, and tear tissue in there, rendering it so it won't germinate. So that's the race we're under. So once we start harvest, which typically for us, it's around the 1st of September, we're going to run hard. We'll run 7 days a week till we're done, which hopefully we're done about mid-October.
And you have farmers from a large area that bring into your plant.
Right. We're contracting thousands of acres in the area. The unique thing with seed, though, we harvest on the year, where most farmers will shell the corn in the field, just bring shell corn in. We're bringing the entire ear in.
The cob, the shucks,
Right.
the whole thing. Okay.
So we have specialized harvesters to do that. We bring it, the corn from the harvesters, and it gets loaded into semis that have walking floor trailers that are specially designed to handle bulky seed. And they'll walk the corn right off the back of the truck into our conveyors without hoisting or anything. So it's
And the whole purpose of what you're doing is you're bringing in and sorting out the seed that commercial farmers, regular farmers, will grow next year to grow corn. Now, we're not talking sweet corn. We're not talking corn on the cob type of stuff. We're talking field corn, yellow dent. And
Right.
what will that corn be used for?
It will be used for seed then for the next spring.
We have a photo here. We have a slide number 9, and hopefully that'll come up there. And there it is. On the left-hand side, you see the bag of corn. And of course, we have Pioneer here because that's what you brought with us. There are other seed companies out there, but there's Pioneer. And there's the corn, actually, that looks a lot like a corn, like a sweet corn you'd eat, but this is a yellow dent corn that is used for feed for livestock and for people.
Right.
There you go. Great. Wow. There we go. We've started out, we've planted, and we've grown the seed. That's quite a production right there. Now, that's just a small part of farming. A bigger part of farming, of course, is taking the seed that we just saw in our last picture. Farmers buy that seed just like our consumers would buy at the local grocery store or the hardware store to plant their garden. Let's shift gears. We're going to go to Eric. Eric, we're going to talk about you as a farmer now. You'll go out and buy that bag of seed because you're ready to grow feed corn for either feeding to your hogs or Frito-Lay or to ADM in Decatur, and you've got to plant your seed. We're going to go to slide number 1, and I want you to talk about this little planter. We've got this is for people looking here. They may think, well, gosh, is that what all the planters look like? Eric, does your planter look like that?
No, that I don't know what that is. If you take
That's a big
time to
one.
count, that's a big one. But mine is probably 1/4 that size, and but I have many fewer acres than this gentleman has apparently. So, but that's what we put the seed in the ground with, and these machines have gotten so precise and accurate at the job they do. It's amazing. And combine those machines with the good seed we're getting, and it's no brainer to raise corn anymore. It seems like
That machine is able to plant corn. Do you figure out how deep, how the spacing? How many
Yes.
plants per acre do you plant?
this machine will plant like a sewing machine. It just more or less puts them at the space you desire. What we plant by population per acre. One bag that Lee's talking about now will plant about 2 1/4 acres, and so these machines will plant that precise population at the depth you want it.
How deep do you put the
An
seed?
1.5 to 2 inches, depends on the season and where the moisture is, and that's where the skill of the farmer comes in. You can't put that in a book. It's not the same every year. That comes with the knowledge of doing it year after year, but that's the most important job of farming, is getting it planted correctly, because if you don't do that, the rest of the season depends on getting it
You
done
mean you
correctly.
don't get a second chance if you
No
don't get it
second
right
chance.
the first time? What happens then?
Yeah, you get a second chance maybe, but it won't yield as much your second chance as the first time.
Or you may not get a second
Or
chance.
you may not get a second. It may keep
Exactly.
raining. And
That's the thing. Farmers only have one chance each year. And we
right.
like to stress that a lot too, that when you see farmers worried about the weather and the crop conditions, and sometimes they complain a little bit too much,
Right.
they're trying to grow that one chance at a crop for the entire year.
Exactly.
We're going to go to slide number 3 right now, and this hopefully is what happens, and you get it spaced right, and look, a little corn plant has emerged.
Yes, that depends on the weather and how warm it is or how cool it is or the rain. Corn will be up in a week to 3 weeks, depends on how cold it is. And my first job is to go out and take a count, see if I got a good stand, see if it's even, look for insects, other problems that could be out there, and then keep an eye on it as the season progresses.
Now, when you plant a seed, do you know how long it takes before that seed's going to be ready? How can you tell when you should plant and when you should harvest? Is there a book that tells you all that?
There's the easiest way is what's called heating degree days, and you'll see that similar to what you see on the weather reports. They'll give that during the growing season. And a corn plant grows by the amount of heat that is accumulated during the days. And So I can actually keep track of the heating degree days, and I know that corn should be out of the ground, or it should be at a certain height, depending on the number of degree days that have passed since I planted it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that we've always heard is it's supposed to be knee-high by the 4th of July.
Yeah.
What if it is, or what if it isn't? Can you change that?
No, you can't change it once you plant it. I mean, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature then. But knee-high by the 4th of July is a very old saying. Even in this year where we planted so late, it's already at that height, most of it. And we consider now tasseled out by the 4th of July is probably more common in a normal year.
Eric, a quick question that always comes to a lot of people's mind. Is every year different, or is every year pretty much the same in farming?
There's no normal, there's no year that's the same as the
That was a
last.
quick answer.
Yeah.
You didn't have to think about that one,
Yeah,
did you?
There's no normal.
Lee, I want to get back to you. We saw the little, in our last picture there, we saw the little plant coming up. Will every plant grow? I mean, what's the percentage of ones you plant? Do they all come up, or is it?
Our standard for germination is 95% or higher. So at least 95% of them should come up, and usually it's probably more like 98, something like that. So a vast majority will come up.
So you're pretty good chance when you put that seed in the ground, after the fine care that your company has taken to make sure it's the right seed, it's
Right.
going to pop up. All right, well, let's go back to Eric for just a second. We've grown it. You've watched it throughout the growing season. We're going to go to slide number 6 here in just a second.
Okay.
And you've watched it grow, mature, and then how many days approximately until that crop is ready to go? I know we talk growing degree days, but is there a approximate date?
We plant a variety that calls for 105 days to 110 days
And
to
then
maturity.
what's in the picture here happens, right?
Yes, harvest. That's the funnest part of farming, though, because you literally get to see the fruits of your labor. I mean, as you sit in the combine seat and go through the field, you get to see and look at the yield monitor. Every combine almost today has a monitor in it that tells you the corn is yielding so much in this particular spot in the field. And you may know that particular spot in your field and know that it's a good spot or a bad spot, and you look at that yield monitor, and if it is or it isn't high yield, then you begin to wonder in your mind, well, what do I do next year to make the yield up where it should be? Or there's a problem here I didn't expect. And so harvest is a very fun part of the year for me, because I get to see the results of all the different things that have accumulated up to this point. A year of studying and work and weather and getting it to that point.
Now, we saw in that earlier slide that one corn plant coming up, and we saw the slide before that, the individual seeds. So for every seed that's planted, up comes a stalk, up comes the plant, and then we saw in the picture of the combine, up comes a mature plant. Then on that mature plant, how many seeds do you get from that one that you planted in the ground?
Here again, it varies on the hybrid, but normally every plant has a good ear on it, one good ear. How many seeds are in an ear, Lee?
It can
It varies.
Hundreds.
hundreds. Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
350, 450,
Okay.
depends on upon the
Yeah.
hybrid, of course, and how good the year was.
How good the year was,
Uh-huh.
exactly. So we try to look for a good ear on every stalk, and how many of those seeds pollinated, and makes a difference on what your yield will be. What the weather was like during pollination is very important. What the weather was like to fill the seed up.
All right, so we've got it that far. Now here we go. We're going to go to slide number 7. We saw the combine running in our last picture, and in this next slide, we're going to bring this up. And this is different than, Lee, the way you brought the corn in,
Right.
when it was on the cob. Here, it looks like you're just harvesting. This machine is actually just pulling the seeds off themselves, the fruit of the labor, as you say, right, Eric?
Yes.
What's going on here?
Actually, we switched to soybean.
Oh, that's, I
Yes.
guess it is, isn't it? Whoops. You're right. Same theory.
Same theory, yeah. The combine takes in the plant and threshes out the seed from the cob or the pods or the straw.
Uh-huh.
And anything that goes into the tank on the combine is just the seed.
Where's the rest of the stuff go?
That goes right back out on the ground and stays on the ground to protect soil during the wintertime and also provide nutrients for the following crop the next year.
Well, that last slide showed the bean production, which is kind of a sneak preview of what we're going to talk in another program sometime. Let's go to slide number 8, and this will go back, take us back into field corn production. And once again, this isn't sweet corn. This is yellow dent corn that's used for feed, and this is going to show a combine at work in corn.
Right. Yeah, this combine is, as it goes through the field, it strips off the stalk goes into the head of the combine. It strips off the ear of corn, mostly. And some trash goes in. And that ear of corn is taken into the machine, and it shells the kernels off the cobs. And the cobs go out the back of the combine, and the kernels go into the tank of the combine. And then that's taken to the end of the field and dumped in a truck, and it goes to the grain bin, or it goes to Anderson's or Cargill or whomever elevator you haul to. And then
Let's give people an idea. They're driving down the road and they're seeing a combine going down through the field. Eric, you're in it. You're driving along. You know, do you have like the air conditioner turned up and you got the music playing in your ears? What are you thinking about when you're out there in the field? What's going on in your mind?
Well, I have everybody turns the air on. You couldn't stay in that glass house on a sunny day without the air. And my sons, if I get in after them, the radio's usually turned up.
Yeah.
When I'm driving it, I like to just watch what's coming in and seeing, like I've said before, the yield of it. But also look at the condition of the corn, and if it's standing up or if it's fallen over. If that's a variety that has fallen over a lot, then I'll go to Lee next year and say, give me a variety that maybe has more characteristics to stand and withstand a windstorm or something like that. So those are the kind of things I think about.
What about that machine itself? Is that a pretty simple machine, that combine? Not a lot of parts on it, nothing can go wrong, it just runs forever?
More sophisticated, more complicated every year. It basically does the same thing, threshes the corn off the cob and separates it. But it's computerized now, it has GPS guidance, you have a joystick. When you drive the machine, you push the joystick forward, it goes forward. You pull the joystick back, it slows down or stops. And there's buttons on the joystick that raise the head, that turn the machine on, that run the spout out. It's very complicated, but it's also very user-friendly too. The newer ones are. So,
could it be considered one of the largest video games in existence today with a joystick like that?
It could be. And a lot of alarms and monitors on it. Should something go wrong, a bearing break or a chain come off or something plug up, because you're in a cab, you can't hear that happening as easily. So there'll be a monitor that tells you something's wrong, you need to stop and go fix it.
A lot of mechanism,
Yes.
a lot of things going on. I do have to say, I got to put this little plug in. I have a son that, of course, has driven my combine, and he's now a officer on board a nuclear submarine, and he says he can't believe the similarities of some of the things that he learned running the combine that are on board a nuclear sub. Lee, we thank you for coming by. Keep growing that good seed out there. Keep doing a good job for our farmers. That's the plan for the future?
That is the plan.
Okay, very good. And Eric, we want to thank you for coming by and talking to us today. Is there a future for the family farm? You think it's in just our last few seconds here?
Oh yeah, I've been told since I was little, it's family farm is going to have a struggle, but it's going strong.
Very good.
And we just got to keep at it.
Well, I think it's because of fine folks like yourselves in agriculture that keep it a great industry like it is today. And that's why we think it's a great idea that you listen to today. We hope you've learned something about agriculture, and we hope that you'll also take that to heart when you see farmers out in the field of the hard work that they're putting in every day. That's our time for today. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Champaign County Agriculture Today.
Champaign County Agriculture Today is brought to you by Champaign County Farm Bureau.